Shug, did you clean your desk behind you?
A little bit. Trying to get organized.
Mm-hmm. Here, Dolly. Come.
I'm wondering if Loretta got the postcard in the mail. Thinking she probably did.
Hey. Evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to see you all.
Evening, Mayor.
Or to see some of you, not others. Although I see familiar names as well. There's Ruthnie. Nice to see you, Ruthnie.
You got the dog.
The dog loves the park.
What do you think, Greg? You want to get going or you want to wait a couple more minutes? Was that I didn't see it.
That's a thumbs up, fired up, Pete. I think you're ready to go.
Okay.
All right.
My name is Pete Bardo. I'm the Superintendent of Parks, Grounds, Maintenance for the City of Syracuse Parks and Rec, and I just really want to thank everybody for attending this meeting this evening. It's about a really important issue that's going on at Lincoln Park. We do have Mayor Ben Walsh with us, and I would like to invite you to say a few things if you choose to before we get started.
Great, thanks, Pete. Again, nice to see all of you, whether I can see your faces or not. Glad folks took time out of your busy schedules to talk about a park that we all love and want to take care of. I want to acknowledge a few folks. We have our District Councilor Joe Carney joining us. So happy to have Councilor Carney with us. I see Commissioner LaFave's here, Deputy Commissioner Oliver, some other folks from our team, and of course, some important neighborhood stakeholders. Lincoln Park, just kind of to give some personal context, really for me, kind of came into my consciousness as I was, starting to think about, starting to kind of realize my passion for the city of Syracuse, which was at a time when my dad was still in Congress. And for those that were around then, one of his signature initiatives was the Syracuse Neighborhood Initiative. And I remember specifically him talking about the Lincoln Hill neighborhood and Lincoln Park and how it had, all the ingredients for a great neighborhood and in many ways already was, but, was dealing with some challenges that a lot of neighborhoods in our community are dealing with. And I know he was really excited to be able to invest some needed resources in the neighborhood. And I've watched as the neighborhood has continued to advocate for itself and to work with us on a number of different initiatives, whether they're quality of life issues or whether it's about the park. But every great neighborhood has a great park, and by all standards, Lincoln Park is a great park. But like many, it has its challenges, and so more recently, Pete is relatively new to the team. Something that Commissioner LaFave and I have always been in agreement on is that we needed to have the right person in Pete's position that understood that it's that the job is more than just about getting the grass cut and picking up the litter. It's about helping our parks realize their true potential and in many cases bring them back to their original grandeur. And I can tell you that both the commissioner and Pete share that vision and share that there, and we've been making our way around the park since Pete came on board, and we spent some time up at Lincoln probably about a month ago and talked about, again, the future and what we could do there, and the particular issue around dumping and access. Is probably among the most significant that we want to work through, and the way we do that is by working with the neighborhood and those that care as much about the park as we do. So really excited to have this opportunity to have this conversation, but in some ways I hope this is just the beginning of kind of the next big thing for the park, and trying to really again bring it to the full potential that we all know it has. So again, thanks for giving me the opportunity to say hello, and I look forward to listening in.
All right, thanks, Mayor. Really appreciate you being here and showing support for the neighborhood and the parks. I just want to remind everyone, before we get started, please mute yourself. It'll help just kind of not with interruptions going through the presentation. Also, as I'm going along, please, if you have any questions or comments or concerns while the presentation is going on, please put them in the chat box. And it looks like everybody pretty much has their name displayed already, but if you ask a question or have a concern or comment, could you please just let us know, like for an example, my name is John and I live 2 blocks from the park, and here's my question or concern. We just want to get an idea of the proximity of where everybody is in regards to the park. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, can everybody see the Link Park traffic information meeting now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as you can see, what we've come up with is option 1 and option 2 with suspending traffic throughout the park going through Lincoln Park Drive. I do want to preface this with, we don't believe this is going to be a permanent solution. We really want to look down the road into, ways to potentially install cameras or more lighting, or ways to kind of surveil this area, so then we could open this route back up to the community. So I do want to just let that say this is a potentially short-term solution, working towards a long-term solution. So I want to start, bring your attention to the Mather Street side of Lincoln Park Drive. Right there, we've proposed putting a gate across Lincoln Park Drive. Now, I know that is the exit, but putting a gate there would allow us to come in there and have access, police have access, to plow or whatever we need to get in there to do to maintain. Now, putting a gate there, I think, is better than a garden box, just because a garden box is more cumbersome to move every time we got to get in there. So a gate there, I believe, makes the most sense. So as we move to option 1, both options 1 and 2 up on this end are going to be planter boxes. So when I say planter box, it's an 8-foot box, that you put flowers in. It's a decorative, basically, bollard. So option 1, 2 planter boxes would be placed just south of the parking lot above the pool. Now, what that would do that would not only shut off access to Lincoln Park Drive, but also the overlook section. There has been some complaints about some illegal activity and things like that up there. But there's also, on the other end of that, people are worried about access, getting up there of all abilities. Option number 2 would be to shut off access just south of the overlook entrance and only limit vehicle traffic through the Lincoln Park Drive. Now, the Lincoln Park Drive is, I want to just bring your attention to here's some pictures of some of the dumping that we have had. Just this year, we've pulled over 200 tires out of this area, okay? This picture right here on the right, those are windows from a home. There was a half of a car. And when I say a half of a car, there was a half of a car down there. Now, I don't know if everybody's familiar with this hill, but this is a hill. So when we talk about, not only is this bad, for the environment to dump all of this debris, but to put staff and laborers down on that hill, it's seriously a hazard to their safety. We don't have equipment really that has the capability to get down there. So there's no good way to get rid of all of this. And at the same time, we don't have the resources to every month or so go down here and spend an entire day just getting rid of all of this trash. So Yeah, so options 1 and 2 are up in the air. The gate at Mathers definitely has to be done in my eyes. What I'm looking for, what we're all looking for here is input on options 1 and 2. Again, tires, construction debris. There, we found about 500 stacks of penny savers. So somebody didn't want to deliver penny savers and just threw it down the hill. There was couches, recliners. We just went down there again a couple weeks ago and pulled up like another 50 tires. It's really bad, and it's not a good look for the park and the community that surrounds it.
Mhm.
So I also just wanted, working with Syracuse Police Department, over the last 6 months, there have been 48 complaints filed with SPD revolving around Lincoln Park. Now, this could be illegal dumping, suspicious vehicles, lewd behavior. There's a list of different complaints that have been filed that kind of go along with this. Not only is there a dumping issue, but there's some safety issues as well. I want to just bring your attention to the normal way of disposing of trash. So, trash pickup, residential policies and procedures. Your weekly household trash goes out on the given night for your neighborhood. Recycling is mandatory in Onondaga County. Recycling is not putting it into a park and letting us recycle that for you. Bulk household trash can be, if it's requested a day or two prior, will be picked up. And then hazardous and unacceptable waste, everything that we're finding down on this hill, televisions, monitors, and electronics, couches, all of that are banned. I have linked down on the bottom where you can go to find more information on, where you could potentially bring some of this trash. Commercial pickup is completely different. I've linked that as well. So some of this stuff we are finding, I think would fall under some commercial type pickups. So I wanted to, this is pretty straightforward. I wanted to be as brief as possible, but as thorough as possible. To any complaints that you may have, you can always go on cityline.feargov.net and log them there. Any park complaints, you can reach out to me directly, and my email is right there. And what I'd really like to do is turn it over to everybody who's joining us, because your opinions are really what matter. So I don't know if were there any chat questions yet?
They're not, no.
Okay. Does anybody want to start off, or anybody have input? Or Christy, you want to unmute yourself? And
So, okay, hi there. I live at 204 Lincoln Park Drive. So I'm also a bit of a hermit, and I had no idea that there was these dumping issues in the park. I had no idea at all. And I don't see any reason why the Lincoln Park area above Lincoln Park Drive to Mather shouldn't be closed off. I think it would help greatly with illegal activities. My biggest concern was, if people aren't going to be doing their deals in the park, are we going to have them in front of our house? That was the only issue that I really had a concern. Because more and more frequently we're hearing gunshots, and half the time I don't know if they're fireworks or good. So that's it, I think, for me. Does anybody have any response? Does anybody else share those concerns?
Well, I'm trying to think how many years ago. Carol, how many years ago did we have the meeting with Parks and Rec? And Matt Driscoll, Pat Driscoll. That had to be,
Oh my God, it had to be like 15 years.
15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Really?
we had a discussion with them back then concerning the trash and the lookout, because at that point in time, the the road from Lincoln Park Drive to Robinson Street was open, but the top of the park at the bottom was gated off. So there was no access to the top of the park. So what we were trying to do was to open the park up to the general public. And we talked to Pat Driscoll and we agreed that we would open the park up to the beginning of the round top circle, not to let them go all the way around, which at this point, I don't know if it really mattered or not, but to allow them access to the top of the park so they could get the visibility, because we did create that lookout landing area. And at that time, it was supposed to be a trial to see how things went. And since then, that's where it's been. And we've always had the issue with the trash along the drive at the bend where you can't be seen. At that point, they still didn't want to block off the road, but Vince, who used to live at the top of that red roofed house at Lincoln Park Drive and Mather Street, right across from the gate, would always see people going up there, and sometimes almost caught a few people. I think we did catch one person, and all he got was like a $100 or $200 fine. But we've always had concerns about the dumping, and I'm sure it's cost the city a lot of money over the years, time and effort to keep that clean. And I know that the park association has had gatherings over there like Earth Day and things, and we've cleaned it up ourselves, I think, at least 2 or 3 times over the years. But we don't have the manpower anymore to do that. So I really believe that portion of this road needs to be blocked off. As far as option 1 and option 2, if I would rather see option 1, but I would agree to option 2 if the top of the park had the visibility for the police and people to see to the top of the park. If that was open and the bushes were all cut down, then I would probably go with option 2. Because it is all about visibility and letting the police be able to see around, the certain areas and things. And I mean, personally, I've been up there and I've cut trees and bushes over the years, but I just can't keep up. So I guess that's my 2 cents for now on that.
Anybody else have anything?
It's Carol. I was listening to Jim and I was leaning towards option 2 to begin with, but then I'm thinking if we do the option 2, it does leave the round top open for people to dump there. And I don't know if we, in conjunction with the city and the parks, can keep up on the growth. We've never been able to keep up on the growth because you cut it down one year and the next year it's back twice as huge. So maybe option 1, where we put the plantered blockers so people can still walk, but not drive up, because I think if we allow them to drive up, they're going to dump over the top of the park at the round top.
So this is Julie, the commissioner, and I just want to chime in because there's been 2 comments now about the overgrowth at the lookout. And I just want to, for comparison, give you guys, we're starting to tackle that similar project over at Schiller Park right now, because there is a round top and it is very much overgrown and people want the visibility again. So that is in our long-term plan, but like you said, you trim it down 1 year, Carol, and it comes back the next year, with a vengeance. So it's a very expensive project, but it is one that we're looking and we're taking very seriously and seeing if we can include it in a future capital plan. So it's not going to be a quick one, but that is a future goal. Just like Pete said, right now we're looking for short-term goals, but we have broader goals. So clearing out the round top is going to be one of our larger goals eventually.
Julie, what is, and Mary, maybe I see Mary's on here. She was on here, Mary Lant. can contest to this, but where the two stairs come up at the top of Lincoln and Sedgwick, you know, that bend, the myrtle is starting to grow around the corner, and that myrtle keeps the bushes down.
Okay. Yeah, myrtle's great.
Be allowed to come around that bend. That helps with the growth of all the plants.
So we need to engage also Earth Corps, because Onondaga Earth Corps is doing a lot for our Schiller Park project. And I think we'll take a lot of our wins and losses and trial and error from that project and hopefully be able to apply it to this round top when we get to it. But that's a great point. And we're going to have to talk with the people who know best about plants and plant growth and weed growth. So we're going to look into all of that. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to chime in here again. And part of the reasoning we went with flower boxes or planter boxes for options 1 and 2 is because we can move them easily. We're not asking skilled trades to come in and put a gate where option 1 is, and then in a year or two down the road, oh, we don't want this here anymore. Planter boxes are much more mobile, not mobile for somebody to move, but if we need to move them with equipment, say we went with option 1 and a year down the road, a lot of complaints of access and stuff like that, we can move those planter boxes to option 2 without wasting a lot of resources from the city. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Or vice versa, right? You could, if things aren't working out at the round top, you could move them up so that there's no access.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, what would you do with the gates, the 2 gates that are at the beginning of the round top? Just leave them there? Or?
Well, they're in place now. I don't think that's really on the table right now to open that completely up. I think priority 1 would be kind of getting a handle on the dumping. But if we can at the same time maybe eliminate, some of the illegal activity or whatever that's going on at the overlook, great. But I think priority number 1, the dumping is a huge concern. But if we can, do both, then that's great.
Again, on the dumping aspect, do you think that they would possibly start dumping just before the gate number 2 option and dump it over the side by the pool?
Well, yeah. So and that already actually happens. But in terms of, I guess, the lesser of 2 evils, to get our staff in there to clean that up, I'd much rather have it right in front of that gate, say at option 1, than have them going 50 feet down a hill trying to recover all of this debris. So I guess it's the lesser of 2 evils, hopefully. And I think you and I talked about this. Option 1 is a little bit more visible to the homes that surround the park as well. So hopefully somebody would be a little less likely to, because when they go in the Lincoln Park Drive, you can just drive through their dump and go out the other end almost unnoticed. Here, you would have to stop at option 1, dump there, turn around, and go back out. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for a resident to see somebody and then, report it and so on.
Well, correct. And I believe that if we implicated option 1, that I don't believe anybody would dump at that spot because of the visibility. Like I'm able to see my house is right where it's blocked off by option 2 comments there, but I can look right across the fringe of that tree line and see that area. Matter of fact, there's a couple of weeping willows that you guys planted on the flat area there where the circular rose garden used to be, and I trimmed those bushes up, or those trees up, so I could see over there. So do we get to vote on this, or do we?
I think we're looking for, and Julie, you can obviously step in here. I think we're looking for public input and putting together a plan to move forward with one of the options, or go back to the drawing board. I think we're just looking for everybody's input, the people who matter, the stakeholders who are in the area right around the park, and like I said, prepare a plan from there.
Right. I think a good way to do it, just because we are recording this right now and we're going to review everything after this meeting. If most of you who are on a computer or on an app, if you're able to access that chat box, if you could actually write option 1 or option 2, or if you have a suggestion in there, just write it in there. And if you don't know how to do that, we can record it for you in the comments, because I know that we have a few people who are on call-ins. We have 1 or 2 call-ins, but if you guys are able to do that, and then I see Greg has a question.
Yeah, to the folks who are on the call in the neighborhood, I'm curious, does anybody use it to cut through between Mather and it's Robinson over there, as I recall, on that side, right, Jim? I've never seen the logic for us I live close, and so it's never a cut through for me. And I just wondered if anybody who lives around the area uses it that way.
It's the same distance. If you go through the park, if I was to go down Sedgwick and around Elm, it's basically the same distance. It's not any quicker, really. I mean, a little bit, but it's not. I mean, again, and I believe there's a line there now. We wanted to block off that section of the parkway and just create a walking area. And I believe there's a white line down there now that shows where the people should walk versus where the cars should be. Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think the police or the fire department can do that, because they can get around to the other side of the park via.
I spoke to both police and fire. Fire would not use it as an emergency route. And worst case scenario, they said those fire engines, those planter boxes are no barrier for them. If they had to, they could go right through them. In talking with Captain Fournier, he just asked for a key to the gate on the Mather side to potentially, if they have to go up there, ease of access. And then we also talked about if they really had to get up there, their cruisers can hop a curb and get up there. So police and fire are not overly concerned with, in terms of what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that, so, if you look at this box too, so the only permanent installation gate is the exit on Mather Street. Option 1 and option 2 are both planter boxes. So we really could collectively try to decide what the majority want from this, and then host another meeting in a month, or we actually maybe wait till spring comes and then see if we need to, because it's just planter boxes, like he said, they can just be moved in one direction or the other. So we could hear what you guys have to say, or, your overwhelming opinion. And then if it doesn't work, we just move the planter boxes to one of the other 2 locations, or one of the other locations that's on here. So I think right now we just want to hear, I guess option 1 is the most restricting of the park, cutting it off for just walking access or bikes type access. But, we think it may have a bigger impact on the trash. So starting at that option, does anybody have any major oppositions to that?
No. And it's funny that you mentioned the bikes and walking. Lincoln Park was originally conceived as a contemplation park, if you look back in history, and that's why there's multiple trails and walking paths throughout the park. And
I've never heard that before, a contemplation park. So I'm going to write that down. That's a neat fact. So I do see people coming in on the chat line, and a lot of people are saying option 1. And again, if it doesn't work, then we just move those planter boxes back to option 2 potentially, or if somehow we come up with a different option that we think also will work somehow. But that's my 2 cents.
Hey, Commissioner, it's Joe Carney. I I guess my request would be whatever option that we do go with. I would just hope that after maybe a few months of it being in place, that we could get back together and just review to make sure that it's addressing what we needed to, and that it's not hindering anything in the neighborhood. Because I know we've done some things in the past where, after it's been in place, neighbors have had, issues that we didn't foresee. So just after a few months, if we could, come back and touch base with everybody and make sure that it's addressing what it needs to.
Absolutely. So in my mind, thanks for saying that, Councilor Carney. So absolutely, in my mind, I would just kind of thinking this out. I think that we would try to implement something rather quickly here based off this feedback, and then maybe give it the entire winter, or if we have a nice long thaw, because I don't think we can get a real good sense if this is working if we have a whole bunch of snow, because people aren't going to be driving up there. But we would absolutely, on the parks end, we would coordinate with the police department. Pete would do that, make sure we keep track of how many complaints, he could track how many tires or how many half of cars or couches they're picking up. We would collect all the data and make a comparison to see if it's made a dent at all. But I absolutely agree that no matter what, we would have a follow-up public meeting just like this for anybody to come to, so we could talk about the results and see if we keep it as is or if we change it. So I agree with that idea.
Mm-hmm. So is there any immediate resolve as far as doing some brush cleaning? Is anything going to happen immediately with that, or we wait until spring?
We were just in there and we cleaned out. I don't know if you know. I hope you noticed on Lincoln Park Drive. We cleaned all of that back, so there wasn't any hazards to any cars or people walking through there. I have been talking to the city arborist about, I'm sure Julie can talk about this too, but like his view on things is getting a canopy of trees, so that will eliminate some of the undergrowth. But this is on his radar. And like Julie said, hopefully we can get this resolved one way or another, and open that back up. But that is on the arborist's radar for sure. Because after our meeting initially, the walkthrough and stuff, I talked to Steve Harris, and it's on his radar.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I did notice there was some cleaning down by the church on Sherwood and Hawley on that corner intersection. That was pretty overgrown for quite a while. Now at least you can see the sign down there. Yeah.
I would remind you guys too, just for things that you're noticing, Jim, or anybody else on this call too. Don't wait for us to have a public meeting to tell us there's overgrowth. We will, if people want to put their email address in the chat box right there, we can follow up with you guys, make sure you're invited to anything, but you can also, we'll give you our contact information too, so that if you see something park related, you can come right to the source and then we can act really quickly on it. Because half the time we need to know about it. We just don't have eyes everywhere. That's not an excuse for why a sign may have been blocked with overgrowth, but it's our way of saying that we're going to change things.
Mm-hmm. I do have one question too, as far as the park rules and stuff. There's always been a sign, park closes at 9 o'clock. I mean, that's not really enforced, obviously. And you see the activity, like I'll see people parked where that red car, where those cars are till midnight sometimes over there. I just think maybe it just needs a little more police enforcement to kind of just take a drive-by once in a while. I know they're probably busier than heck, but
we will pass that along. I mean, because we don't have park rangers, but we will absolutely pass that along. Yeah. Those are the hours of every park in the city, so we'll request a little more attention in the parks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I would say that looking at the comments, anybody who's commented seems to be in favor of option 1. And the mayor, thank you. He's going to reinforce that message with SPD for us about the hours of the park. But I think the plan is we'll move forward. We'll put that permanent gate at the bottom of Lincoln Park Drive by Mather. We'll do option 1. Again, if you guys want to put your email address or if you prefer a phone number in the chat box, we'll make sure we contact you. We can do follow-up. And then the same way you found out about this, we'll do postcards again to let you know when we can have a follow-up meeting on all of this. Okay, I see that, Greg. Okay. And there's a note that they'd rather keep. Okay, so we're gonna review this after the meeting, but Pete, is that kind of what you thought next steps would be?
Yes, absolutely.
Julie, it's Greg Lowe, and I'll just make one more point, which is to say to the neighbors, and I hope that maybe my colleague Councilor Carney, who spoke, if he was able to stay on, we may have lost him, but We will push. You there, Joe? I thought I may. Oh, there he is. There's Joe's voice. Hey, Joe. Joe, you and I can team up too and work on trying to get some state resources to help us get maybe a couple cameras that help us potentially get back to a day where maybe Mather could be reopened, because I know our parks team has said, we don't want this to be permanent. So some cameras would help us with follow-up on enforcement.
Absolutely. I'm happy to go.
Yeah.
Our delegates at the state to see if
Yep.
some funding for that.
Joe, you've been good at helping us with that before in Sedgwick neighborhood, and Lincoln Hill over here too. We'll do the same thing. Make it happen.
All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to comment or question before we sign off here?
I think Pat Driscoll raises a good question about whether or not National Grid may be able to assist us with some of the overgrowth around their poles and wires. So not sure what the answer is, but I know I got a notice for them doing it around my house recently, and we should at least ask the question.
I believe Steve Harris, the city arborist, will have more information on that, but I do know that we still work with them, because I know that even recently we've accepted funds from them because they took out trees that were in the way. So we still have some kind of active relationship with them, but I can't speak exactly what it is.
We'll find out. Thanks, Pat.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for attending. And again, just one final push that please don't wait for a public meeting. You can reach out to us. We pride ourselves in being responsive. We want to know about the things you guys see and the things that we can do. And even if we can't do something immediate, we want to talk with you and go through the options. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out to anybody here at the Parks Department. We're not here to make excuses. We're here to just make things better. And that's what we really want to do. So thank you guys all for taking time out of Unite. I mean, it's snowing. I don't know if you'd rather be outside in the park right now anyways, but maybe you would, but thank you all.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mr. Walsh, for being there. And
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
have a good one.
See you, Chuck.
Hi, Carol.
Hey, Ann, question. Are you saving the chat box? Ann, can you hear me?
I don't know why I couldn't unmute with my
Oh.
bar. Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
I mean, we don't have to do this year, but I'm just thinking forward. Just like we have MailChimp lists per, you know how we have like MailChimp lists per, I don't know, I guess you could say like.
Recording. Hang on 1 second, Ruthie.
Sure.
So if I just hit stop. Do you want to stop recording? Hi, Corey.